So I've been using this setup here with the Maschine Plus in controller mode and the Komplete Kontrol S61 for over a month now, and it is becoming my favorite setup for making music if I'm going to use computer plugins. So I definitely do some DAWless stuff, as you've probably seen on this channel. If you've watched before, if you haven't, welcome. I'm Dylan Paris. I do this sort of thing. But I have been really inspired by this sort of hybrid DAWless workflow where I have the Maschine Plus plugged into my desktop over there, and I also have the Komplete S61 plugged into the desktop, but then I am doing everything over here. So it gives you that feeling of a standalone hardware setup, but it does have the benefit of the full power of a Windows PC and all the plugins that run on the NKS platform with Maschine. And so I did a little jam from scratch last week, and one of the comments was asking for, some commentary. And so I figured, hey, I would talk about this setup. So one really crucial piece of information to know is that you don't have to go this all out with the hardware. If you just want to use controller mode, you can definitely just use the Maschine Mark III. And if you don't want the screens and you don't need all of these additional controls, you could get away with using the S series or the A series rather than the S series, or even the M series with a smaller keyboard, such as this M32. That gives you an even more portable setup, which is nice. But I do have space here in my studio to have this whole setup here. And sometimes I do swap this out for the Maschine Plus or the Akai Force and then use the S61 to control those. But in general, I do like having this little synth corner here, or I guess not exactly synth, but production corner. That said, I would recommend the S series because I think it's nice to have that dual level of control. You have the same knobs as you would on the A series and the M series, but you do have these screens as well, which lets you have maybe like mixers up here and browsing plugins and configuring different sounds down here. It gives easy access to controls, but honestly, they're very easy to access up here too. So if you were to use, say, the Arturia Keylab Essential 49 or the Novation Launch Key 49 or 61, any of those keyboards, most of this still works. You just lose some of the control that you have down here, and I really do like having that control, hence the Komplete Kontrol name. Now, I will say that Native Instruments did send over this keyboard as well as the M32, so I do want to acknowledge that. I paid for the Maschine Plus myself, but they gave me the keyboards, which was really cool. I've been critical of them in the past, but I've also been, positive on the things they've improved and the things they do well. So I think they understand that, and I think they're one of the best companies in the game when it comes to making great sounding, great user interface workflows. When I have problems, I shout them out. I do, but I'm very grateful that they recognize the value of working with me, and I definitely feel the same. So that said, part of what makes this so nice is that I already really like the Maschine workflow. I think going from, nothing to building out something is really simple. Last week, I made that song from scratch with nothing pre-created, and I did that in, I think, about 19 raw minutes, I think, was like the actual take time, and then cut that down to even shorter. Usually the longest part of the process is just finding the sounds I like, or, tweaking things once I've started recording some MIDI data. I do personally like to play all of my notes. So in general, I try not to use loops. The only time I use loops are if I'm gonna warp them or chop them up or do something weird with them. I'm really wary of making a song that has a loop that someone else has used that sounds the exact same. This is way before Content ID and all that stuff. When I was in middle school, I made my first ever short film, and I took it to a film festival, and the song at the end credits that my friend made had the same exact GarageBand loop as the song in the next person's short film. And so when my end credits started playing, the entire theater started laughing, or at least a group of people in the theater laughed, because the only people in the theater were people who had their short films playing. And I was like, why are they laughing? It was kind of funny, and then I realized when their movie started, they had the same loop. It was like this dun 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 dun, and it was just like, oh gosh. And ever since then, I've been really careful about composing everything. I want to basically have the rights to whatever I make. And so that's why I love a workflow like this. Now, to be clear, the pads on the Maschine are so good, you can do really good note entry without a full keyboard. And they have multiple scales modes and chords modes that make it really inspiring to play in notes. In my personal opinion, the actual experience of entering note data, like playing notes melodically, the Maschine platform is the best for that. I think the Akai Force is pretty close, and the MPC, I know you can change the sensitivity, but out of the box, I feel like the MPC pads are better for drums than they are for note entry. They can definitely do note entry for sure. But I do feel like if you just wanted one device, the Maschine, either Mark III or Plus, is the best if you're really going to enter a lot of melodic data in real time. That said, if you plug in a MIDI keyboard into any of these, you get the benefits of the platform plus your MIDI keyboard. But yeah, the reason this is so inspiring is that I've talked about this before, but I do feel like the Maschine workflow of starting from scratch and building out a sketch and then turning that into a song, it makes more sense for my brain than basically any other platform. I've used Ableton since like 2011, so I definitely have muscle memory for Ableton, and when I'm using a controller like the Launchpad Pro Mark III or the Ableton Push 2, I can definitely also be quick, but the way Native Instruments configured the NKS platform on the Maschine means that you have this level of granular control and a visual interface for basically any plugin that's compatible on here. That does mean they have to be compatible, but there's a bunch of them that are, and basically everything I use is. I basically use Komplete and Arturia V Collection plus Pigments as my main sound generating plugins. And Native Instruments were actually kind enough to send me over a code for Komplete 14 Ultimate, I think, maybe even Collector's Edition. It's wild. I've been buying Komplete for years. I usually buy them on the sales when they're half off for the standard edition. So it is really cool to have access to all of these different sounds as well. I already had Komplete 12, I think is what I had before they gave me the upgrade. And I definitely would have recommended that. I definitely recommend 14. But I do really like what comes with that package. And so it is nice to have all of that here as well. When you are looking for sounds on either of these screens, you can browse by instrument. You can browse by groups here. You can browse by effects, loops as well, and one-shots, which especially when you're in just the Maschine Plus standalone mode, the one-shots are nice for augmenting what else is there or for what is already there. But yeah, as you can probably hopefully see, there's just this really nice experience of being able to see these visual elements and then pull up a sound. And because I have a pretty beefy computer, it's really simple to get into a sound, and that was an Arturia plugin, so if I go and load something off of Ignition Keys really quick, super fast, and that is the benefit of having that PC power. This is all doable on a Mac as well. I'm just running it off my desktop. This breadth of options when it comes to different plugins and synths, between the emulated synths of the V Collection and the expansive multi-sampled play series and the various other synths in Komplete, you just have a lot of things to work with. And I don't really get overwhelmed by options. I try to just focus and go fast, right? So it's like, what's the first sound that inspires me? Done. What's the next sound? Done. And I just do that as a practice, especially when I'm making the videos where I'm making a song from scratch. That's like the whole process. And so it's easy for me to kind of enjoy the variety rather than be overwhelmed by the choice of it all. I know some people don't like having that much choice, and that's why they go into hardware synths, and total respect if that's where you're at. For me, I like knowing that any kind of sound I could want, I have access to. And if I were to say, go back to all, if I hold shift, I can get up there faster, I think. Yeah, maybe not. Then I can go to all types, all characters, and I can just say, hey, actually, I just want plucked strings. Now, every single sound I'm going to see here is going to be plucked strings. We'll see, this is Arcus. And with those controls right there, it's really easy to just transform a sound once you've already loaded it up. And I can click over to a new pad, a different group rather, and instantly start finding new sounds for something else. So let's say 40's very own drums. These are cool because they'll load up the whole kit over here. And then they also have patterns. In general, like I said, I'm weary to use patterns in that way, but I'll show you something I made that kind of does use patterns that come with a plugin called Empire Breaks, but I think does it in a pretty unique way. Let's go to the first scene here. I think it's this one. This is all Empire Breaks. You can see my pattern here. It's just triggering different little patterns, and then I'm tweaking high pass, low pass, And I'm playing this at a really high BPM, so I'm at 160 to kind of create like this drum and bass feeling. And that's where I would use patterns, because there are these, additional layers you can automate and change what's playing at any given time. And in that way, you make it your own again. And so I am inspired by that tool. And that's where I would recommend, don't just play the loop back and be like one of many. Alter the loop, reverse engineer the loop, figure out how it works to teach yourself how to make those drum patterns, and then go back and then tweak it and, make it your own. But learning from a loop like this, or learning from different sounds, like I'm very bad at making break beats, and I'm not very good at making drum and bass hi-hats and top loops from scratch. That's where I might throw a loop on top. But I do want to show you this little track I made to kind of give you an idea of why I like this setup so much. It's a work in progress, but I hope you enjoy it. Let's check it out. So yeah, that's just, a sample of what I've been able to make using this setup. And it's just really inspiring. It's nice to have this whole setup, my computer's over there, but I'm not looking at it. I don't need the screen. When I'm building something out, I can just work here. And that's what's really inspiring about the whole thing. If you've enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel. If you want to go above and beyond in helping the channel, there's a few ways you can. I have affiliate links to various devices and software that you can use in the description. Using those gives me a little percentage when you use them. Only use it for stuff you're already interested in. The Amazon links, if you click them and buy anything, they actually help me. So if you're already buying something, you could do that, but no worries. And if you want to go above and beyond, I do have a Patreon where I like to post some demos of things I'm working on or older songs from my last album. There's something better, as well as this new album I'm working on. And, just different insights into the creative process. I have a few Patreons I want to shout out here: Tempest Anderson, Sigmata, and iPod My Pants. If you want to join them, please consider following the link below. Last but definitely not least, I have music on all the different streaming platforms, specifically my album, There's Something Better. I'm really proud of it, and I feel like if the right people heard it, it could really blow up. I think it's the best thing I've ever made. The kind of stuff I do here on these videos is more like sketches, but I take a lot of time with the full album process. And I'm really happy with what happened, or what I was able to do along with my collaborator, Wronghouse, aka Jake Stein. So if you're interested in checking out what, my full music really sounds like when it's given the time to grow and flourish, consider checking out my album, There's Something Better. If you use Spotify, following me there and listening there would be great. If you use any other platform, much appreciated. If you do enjoy the music, consider showing it to people you love or people you think might like it. Anyway, I've talked enough. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great, wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.